One woman against 60, that was the number whispered among the SEALs as they watched her step out of the transport vehicle under the blistering desert sun, her rifle slung casually across her back, her face calm in a way that made hardened operators uneasy, because calm like that usually meant experience earned the hard way, yet still they scoffed, murmuring that command must be desperate to send a lone female sniper to reinforce a convoy escort mission already crawling with danger, a narrow mountain pass infamous for ambushes, IEDs, and disappearing patrols, but she didn't react to the doubts or the sideways glances. She simply studied the terrain, the angles of the cliffs, the way the wind brushed the dust, and when the convoy began to roll 6 armored vehicles carrying critical intel, everything felt wrong to her trained instincts, the silence too clean, the ridgelines too empty, and then it happened, the first glint of metal far above, the subtle shift of shadows that only a master sniper would notice, and before the SEALs could even key their radios, she was already prone, rifle steady, breathing controlled, calculating distances that stretched beyond what most shooters would even attempt, and then the first shot cracked the silence, except it didn't crack at all, it whispered, suppressed, precise, dropping the lead spotter instantly, followed by a second and a third in rapid but measured succession, targets falling before they even realized they were compromised. And suddenly the SEALs understood this wasn't one woman against 60, it was one predator dismantling a pack, as she moved from target to target with lethal patience, neutralizing commanders first, radio operators next, then heavy weapons carriers, every shot purposeful, every body falling exactly where it needed to fall to sow confusion, and when the enemy finally reacted, firing wildly into the air, they still couldn't find her, because she had already shifted position, using terrain like a living map, and by the time the convoy reached the kill zone's center, 18 enemy combatants were already down, silent, unseen, and the ambush had collapsed before it ever truly began, the remaining attackers retreating in panic, abandoning weapons, leaving behind nothing but dust and unanswered questions, while the SEALs sat stunned, counting the shots, counting the bodies, realizing the entire threat had been neutralized without a single friendly casualty, and when the radio finally crackled with her calm voice saying, "Convoy clear, continue movement," there was no scoffing left, no doubt, only respect, because they had just witnessed the truth of modern warfare, that skill outweighs numbers, silence can defeat force, and underestimating a warrior, especially one trained to be invisible, can be the most dangerous mistake of all. And as the convoy disappeared down the pass, the SEALs knew this mission would be remembered not for the firefight that never happened, but for the moment they learned that sometimes one woman is more than enough to stop an army. In the aftermath of the halted convoy, long after the dust had settled and the mountain pass fell unnaturally quiet, the SEALs remained on high alert, because experienced operators knew that silence after chaos could be more dangerous than gunfire itself, and as aerial drones confirmed what their eyes already struggled to accept, 18 confirmed enemy casualties, all precision neutralizations, no wasted shots. The weight of what had just happened began to sink in, not just tactically but psychologically, because this ambush had been dismantled with such surgical efficiency that it sent a clear message to anyone watching from the shadows, and yet she was already relocating, never staying long enough to be tracked, her movements calculated, her mind several steps ahead of any possible counterattack, while the SEAL commander ordered a temporary halt to reassess the route, now acutely aware that the enemy force they had just dismantled was only part of a larger network operating in the region, a network that would soon realize they had underestimated the wrong target, and as intelligence streams poured in, intercepted chatter revealed confusion and fear among hostile units, reports describing ghost fire, invisible shots, and a sniper who struck without warning, turning confident fighters into panicked survivors, and it was then that command made the call that would change the mission's scope entirely, tasking the female sniper not merely as support but as the forward element, the unseen spearhead, because her ability to dominate terrain and control enemy movement had proven decisive, and as night fell, she coordinated with the SEALs in a way that erased any remaining doubt, calmly assigning overwatch sectors, predicting enemy fallback routes, and identifying secondary ambush positions before they could be occupied, demonstrating a mastery of battlefield awareness that only comes from years of relentless training and real combat. And when the enemy attempted a second strike under cover of darkness, believing the convoy would be vulnerable while regrouping, they walked straight into a trap that never revealed itself, as suppressed shots once again cut through the night with terrifying restraint, each shot timed to isolate and paralyze, breaking cohesion before the SEALs even needed to engage, and by dawn the hostile network had effectively collapsed, their leaders gone, their communications shattered, their confidence destroyed, leaving the convoy free to complete its mission unchallenged. And when extraction finally arrived, the SEALs stood in quiet acknowledgement rather than applause, understanding that what they had witnessed wasn't luck or spectacle but the highest expression of modern warfare, where discipline, intelligence, and precision outweighed brute force. And as she boarded the aircraft without ceremony, one operator finally voiced what they were all thinking, saying softly that the title of the mission would never be remembered, the number of enemies would fade from reports, but the lesson would remain permanent: that war does not care about assumptions, that strength is not measured by volume or appearance, and that sometimes the most decisive weapon on the battlefield is the one no one ever sees coming. Weeks after the convoy mission officially concluded, the ripple effects of what happened in that mountain pass continued to spread across the region in ways no after-action report could fully capture, because enemy movement patterns changed, patrols vanished, and entire supply routes went cold, all triggered by the fear of an unseen sniper who had rewritten the rules of engagement, and intelligence analysts began noticing something unprecedented: hostile forces were refusing to occupy high ground, abandoning ridgelines, and avoiding open terrain altogether, behavior consistent not with defeat but with psychological collapse. And at the center of every intercepted transmission was the same warning passed in hushed tones: a single woman whose rifle spoke only 18 times yet shattered an entire network. And when a high-value enemy commander finally attempted to restore control by assembling what he believed was an overwhelming force, nearly 60 fighters spread across layered defenses, the SEALs were tasked once again to move in, this time not to escort, but to dismantle the operation permanently. And there was no debate about who would take Overwatch, because the scoffing was gone, replaced by absolute trust. And as the team advanced under moonless skies, she was already in position hours ahead, embedded so deeply into the terrain that thermal scans read her as nothing more than stone, watching the enemy commander pace confidently below, unaware that every step, every order, every guard rotation was being mapped and predicted. And when the operation began, it didn't start with an explosion or a breach, but with silence. As the first shot removed the commander's eyes, the second erased his voice, and the third collapsed his sense of control, and within minutes the compound descended into chaos, fighters running without direction, firing at shadows, while precision shots continued to cut away leadership, communication, and morale with ruthless efficiency. And by the time the SEALs moved in, resistance was fragmented and broken, not because of superior firepower, but because the enemy no longer believed survival was possible. And after extraction, as dawn broke and reports confirmed the complete collapse of hostile operations in the sector, the SEAL commander gathered his team, not for celebration, but reflection, acknowledging that what defined victory here wasn't numbers eliminated or territory seized, but the understanding that modern warfare had evolved, that dominance now belonged to those who could control the battlefield without being seen. And as for the sniper herself, She declined recognition, declined interviews, declined everything except her next assignment, fading back into anonymity as quietly as she had arrived, leaving behind only a lesson burned into the minds of everyone involved that underestimating a warrior based on appearance is a fatal error, that silence can be louder than any explosion, and that when skill, discipline, and patience align, even 60 against 1 is never truly a fair fight. Long after the final operation was marked complete and the region officially declared stabilized, the story of the woman who had once been dismissed as 1 against 60 began to evolve into something far larger than a single mission, because among the SEAL teams, intelligence units, and allied forces who rotated through the area, her actions became a quiet reference point, a reminder whispered during briefings whenever complacency crept in, and although her name never appeared in headlines or commendation ceremonies, her influence reshaped doctrine itself, as training simulating